Week in Feminism. So, yeah, no, I was just walking to class. Oh, my God! A penis! Someone with a penis! Get it away! Remember, none of this is possible without you. Join the fight and sign up for MugClub today at louderwithcrowder.com/MugClub for $89 annually. Join the fight at louderwithcrowder.com/MugClub today.
All right, Mug Club and everybody else, thank you for joining us today. We're going to great show for you. It's Louder with Crowder with Gerald. They have a sign up for me over here. Yeah. Spared no expense. You can't let people know you're here before I let people. Sorry. You're still talking. It's still happening. All right, thanks for joining us. Look, Stephen is very, very ill today. He was doing legal things yesterday. I think you all know what that means right now. And dealing with that is no fun. He was already sick prior to that, so we encouraged him to stay home. Trust me, he wanted to come in and be a part of the show. He misses you guys, and we'll be back tomorrow sitting in the chair. Please don't take it out on me. Just stay here. Don't click anywhere else. Get your finger off the mouse. Stop. Do people still use their desktop computers to watch this? Don't push any buttons somewhere on the telephones, the thing, the brick, whatever. We've got a good show for you. I promise it'll be a lot of fun. I'm going to give you a quick rundown of the stories. We had some hostages released. Well, that's fantastic. I'm never going to say no to hostages being released, but couldn't help but notice you took them hostage in the first place, so I don't know if you necessarily get a gold star. Biden wants another $105 billion. They announced that they were going to push for that last week. We'll dive into that. We've got terrorists coming across the southern border. It's kind of a problem. We might want to look into that. And also, do you remember Art Briles, the former head coach of Baylor, who's been making the news a little bit lately? Yeah, that was all BS. He's been cleared. And we're going to dive a little deeper into that and maybe do a little bit of a deep dive in revisiting Me Too and all the carnage and wreckage that has wrought on people's lives. I understand. Rape bad, 100%. Sexual assault bad, 100%. We want to bury those guys under the courthouse, but ruining people's lives and not having any evidence and just doing it for PR is a really, really bad thing. Now, my question of the day before I introduce the guests here is, you guys miss like the relative global tranquility that we experienced under Donald Trump? Comment below if you would prefer to have that instead of, as a lot of people are saying right now, sleepwalking our way into World War III. All right. For all of you, we have a new camera over here. The fisheye lens has officially been retired, and so I will look better, if that is possible, when I'm sitting over there. But right now, making that seat look very, very nice. Lane the Brain, Ginger Snap, how are you, sir?
Hanging in there. I'm chilling. I'm good. Learning where the microphone is.
It's hard. Sometimes you got to get a little closer, right?
I'm just a natural move around, but that's not going to work here.
That's not.
In the microphone.
You're sounding good, man.
I mean, if you want people to hear you, that is a very bad thing to do. But being closer to the microphone is great. Just don't hide behind.
Also, quick note on desktop computers. I really like to watch mine on those see-through Macs.
Yes.
From the 1990s.
Yeah. That's fantastic.
Really good
Listen, I understand I'm an old man. And look, when you hear this song, you know Mr. Bryan Callen's in the house. How are you, sir?
I'm just a man. Sorry to ruin the surprise, everybody.
I don't think that you're just a man,
I
Bryan.
know. Well, come on. Although I don't have the auburn hue to my hair that Lane does. He's so fall looking.
I will take auburn.
And confirmed you do have a soul, correct?
Allegedly. It's there somewhere. It's inaccessible at a lot of points.
It lives under his tongue.
It definitely does. And Bryan, you'll be using that tongue to make people laugh.
That's what they say, buddy. In Chicago.
Wow, that could have derailed very quickly. In Chicago, October 27th and 28th. Well, look at that. That's this Friday and Saturday.
It's Schaumburg. It's not really in Chicago. It's actually Schaumburg, 40 minutes outside of Chicago.
Well, that's still Chicago. I mean, I think you can say that.
It's Chicago. It's Chicago miness the gangs.
Seriously.
Minus the violence.
That was Siri listening to us. You don't want to hear what we're about to say, Siri. You really don't. I love your new do we have the new kind of show the thing for his new show Off Limits? It's on Mondays on Mug Club. Boom, look at that.
Yes.
Wow.
Thank you to all the Mug Club listeners for your comments, especially the critical ones, which I actually agree with, and I'm going to start reading off the good ones that I like. But they're smart listeners.
They are very smart listeners.
And I've realized that, I've always talked about, one of the things is you talk about being in the middle or talk about being reasonable. I'm not going to talk about that anymore. There's right and there's wrong.
Yep.
How about that?
Hey.
How about that?
There we go.
Don't ask me if I'm in the middle or the left or the right.
love it.
There's right or there's wrong.
Well,
Brian's getting pissed.
Yeah.
I think you're
am.
answering your own question. There's right and there's wrong.
Yes, I see what you're doing there. Yeah, the left is typically wrong. And look, by the way, some of the stuff that we say here is not necessarily fit for, the communist hellhole that is YouTube. And I don't really know why you're still there. Do me a favor and go over to Rumble right now. Get off of YouTube. But look, if at any point we start diving into a subject that maybe could be, afoul of their stupid guidelines that they leave open to interpretation, you're going to see this. Just make sure you head on over to Rumble during that time, because we're not trying to get banned all the time. I mean, sometimes we try to get banned, and it's a lot of fun, especially when we do it on TikTok. But what we have next for you is it is TikTok. TikTok is Satan. I think it's a clear way of saying that. It's a really bad place. Nothing good happens on TikTok that I know of. And we have our U.S. military right now with all of the issues in the world, and they're focused on doing this.
Rumor has it he's the one I'm leaving you for.
Oh, somebody wants to get taken hostage.
Why the beard line, though? Why the make?
Spoiler alert. Sorry, bro. That was wrong. That was wrong on me.
That is a guy. Let's just be clear.
You'd think the drill sergeant would go through the bag and find a makeup brush and kick the crap out of him.
Well, yes, unless it's today's military with all of the issues that we have facing us in the world, and we're more concerned with protecting people's ability. Look, if you want to dress up in drag and do bad makeup and like put a fake makeup beard line in that makes you look like some weird freaking futuristic character in a show, fine. Just don't do it on our dime. And certainly, listen. Everybody has a right to serve. I think they should see action if action is had, because that is what they signed up for.
Yes.
Right. I just
a wall
yes.
of.
I just don't. Yeah. I don't feel safe with that person on my wall.
That's my real question.
No, but that person is the wall.
How do we know that's a real military? When we see these,
I don't know.
How do we know these are real? Because where are we seeing these TikTok? Right.
Interesting.
I've never really thought about that before. But how do we know that these are really U.S. military members?
I think it's a mil-spec makeup bruch.
It's a psyop.
I'm not like.
So it sucks.
We say TikTok is one
the bare
giant
minimum.
psyop.
No, you're right. It might be a giant psyop.
You know what? That's fair. I do think our military is better than that, and I'm never, by the way, messing with the entire military. It's just like when we talk about the FBI or the CIA or Washington or a lot of these other giant agencies that are out there. I think there's a lot of great soldiers. I just think the leadership is promoting some really bad stuff. And this is a symptom of that, not necessarily what leadership is promoting. They're probably not handing out makeup brushes and saying, go and make yourself into a clown today and see if you can pass.
We don't know that.
Yeah, I don't know that.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, based on some of the policies, based on some of the things that we've heard them say and their focus, look, I think your focus should be on fighting and winning wars, period. That's it.
And I'll get off this, but if you have 2 seconds to consider if this is a psyop, it would make sense, because what you need to do is degrade public trust in the institution of the military. And it is. It is at its lowest since 1997, since we were in the middle of the Balkan Wars, I believe. Maybe even right after that. But as soon as you degrade public confidence, then no one wants to support the military. Then you don't actually have confidence in what they're doing. And it's kind of this vicious circle where you can't succeed and no one wants to join it.
That's fair.
So why would the largest operator of anti-American propaganda, the CCP, not want to take advantage of their platform that is our largest social media network for young people?
I don't know.
It's valid.
It's interesting, Lane.
8D chess.
Yeah.
Or is it 9?
I don't have any substantiating evidence. This just seems like
That's a
something
good
to be
theory.
considered.
I like that.
Although if you were in the field for a long time and that
Mm-hmm.
was your partner.
Well, you wouldn't be in the field for a long
Bryan.
time.
What I say?
Golly.
I'm just saying. Sometimes a man gets lonely in the field and
Reel it in, bro.
you can't just tend to your sheep.
Brian,
What happened?
Too
much?
I want you to look at me.
Wait,
Look at me
okay,
right now.
I'm
Look at me.
sorry. Sorry, it's just those lips, the makeup.
Even if
Yeah.
you're the dominant one, it's still gay. Okay.
it.
So
Even if I'm frowning the whole time and singing the national anthem, come on, man.
still gay.
It's just
So,
maintenance. Sorry.
still gay.
God damn it.
If you want more of that, or let's say you don't, let's say that you want more of this show, let's say you want more of Alex Jones, make sure you join Mug Club. It is $89 annually. It is the only way that we keep the lights on and continue to bring you great content. But look, we've got a lot of great shows on here. We've got a lot of great contributors, a lot of talent. We've also got some fun stuff in the background that you don't really see on a day-to-day basis, but you've started to see some of those stories come through, some of the undercover stuff we've done, some of the stuff that Lane, you were able to go down and do and get some footage. You're going to see more of that, more of the undercover work, more of actually having an impact in specific situations. And that is only funded by MugClub. The only way that we can do that is with you guys supporting us. And look, we don't have tip jars all over the place. We don't have Patreons. We don't have Super Chats. We don't have a lot of this stuff. And that's fine for other people to have it. That's just not how we do our thing, right? We don't do a ton of sponsorships because we want to make sure that we bring you great content and don't accidentally kind of slip into a Bowl and Branch ad right in the middle of a story, right? But we want to make sure that we can bring you great content and also have an impact in the communities on the topics that we talk about all the time, because we do have a passion for it. It's not just here to talk about it. We want to make an impact, and they're doing a great job with that. So they know who I'm talking about. I can't reveal it because, the whole undercover thing. Anyway, so let's get to the Israel story right now. One of the biggest things in the news is that Hamas apparently has released a couple of hostages. And that's... I want more than two.
Yeah.
Do you give me 222 or however many that there are right now? I think it's somewhere close to that number. But 2 elderly women were actually taken hostage by Hamas, and they were released last night.
Out of captivity tonight, 85-year-old Yocheved Lifshitz, 79-year-old Nurit Cooper. Their husbands are still thought to be in the hands of Hamas.
So... Wow. You saw the names. 79-year-old and 85-year-old were released to Egyptian authorities, and it says that their husbands are remaining in captivity. And basically, I think we were going to trade Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, and AOC, but Hamas took that as an act of aggression, and so they decided to release these 2 prisoners to us because they were tired of changing their depends. Look, these are old people.
Yes.
These are very, very old people that should never have been taken hostage in the first place. I'm willing to bet their husbands are old people as well. I don't think they married 25-year-old men that maybe it would make sense in a conflict to try and take off the battlefield. I don't think that's what happened. And I don't think you get a gold star for going and releasing people that you took hostage in the first place, especially in a lot of cases where you killed their children in front of them, or you killed other family members in front of them, or killed their neighbors right before taking them hostage. You're a bad person. You're bad people. You deserve whatever the hell Israel wants to throw at you. Now, that doesn't mean I'm for war. I am just for getting these people out and for Israel having the right to defend themselves. And if they got to go in and break stuff and shoot people in the head to get these people out, then so be it. All right.
To be fair, that the woman they released was a peace activist, and her husband speaks Arabic and was very active for years in helping Palestinians in Gaza, spent time in Gaza, and knew people in Gaza.
Do you think that's why they released them? They probably kidnapped them on accident.
My favorite is apparently they were treated well, as in, we kept you in a spider web of tunnels, but we did give you a mattress and some pita.
It's blood-stained mattress because, those are in short supply. But
we had to kill half your kibbutz.
Oh, my gosh.
And then we took you.
I know. I mean,
it's unbelievable.
Can you think of any other situation where it's like, yeah, we took them. Hey, we released them. We're good guys now. You're not good guys. You still hold 200 Israelis hostage from that October 7th attack. They said they released them for humanitarian reasons. Yeah, whatever. And by the way, the 2 Americans hostages were released by Hamas this last Friday. 10 more Americans still unaccounted for here. So, yeah, still no gold stars. We send in whoever we need to send in. We break stuff, and you release the hostages. Or you just keep getting bombed, and you release the hostages. Right now, I think they're trying to say, we'll release the hostages if you stop bombing us. And I think that's a little bit silly, but we'll get to that in just a second. But do me a favor. Comment below. It's not just my opinion. what do you think we should do? How do you think we should handle the situation when U.S. citizens are taken hostage? Do you think we should just roll over and let things kind of play out? You guys remember what happened in Iran when that happened back in the 1970s? That didn't play out too well.
No.
I don't
Right?
remember that.
You
Talking
don't.
about Argo.
What are you?
Yeah,
what are you in your 30s?
Part of Argo, that was a bit of it. I'm talking about the rest of the hostages that were held for, what was it, like 440 something days or 450 days?
Yeah.
Over a year, Americans were held hostage in Iran. Yeah. I don't think we play around with it. I don't think you negotiate. I certainly don't think you give $1.2 billion per hostage in the Iran deal that we did most recently. That's a really bad hostage strategy. I don't know. You tell me what you think. I don't think we play around with hostage takers. I think every time they take hostages, they need to know that the most sophisticated military force that the world has ever known is hunting them down. I think that's a really
You're
good
talking about
motivation.
taking the profit out of that behavior.
Yeah.
So if there's profit,
I'm talking about taking the life out of that behavior.
yeah.
To be more specific, put a finer point.
Right. We're going to knock the wind out of you permanently.
Yes, permanently. You'll never breathe again.
Yeah.
So Hamas actually has a hostage-taking strategy, Lane. Like, this is something that you guys kind of pulled in, and I really appreciate it because I hadn't seen this. I've been looking for it on this, and right now CNN can only trip over their smiles about how happy they are that Jenna Ellis pleads guilty in the Georgia election case to kind of strike a plea deal, and they're trying to make this like, people are flipping on Donald Trump. That's not exactly what's happening. We'll get to some of that over the next few days as more information comes out, but there's a hostage-taking strategy. This is part of their game plan, right? So they have an abduction manual, they being Hamas, and it was obtained by the IDF, and it basically highlights how important taking hostages is to the overall strategy, right? So here's a few things that would be found in this document, right? So it's binding instructions, which you have no need of. You know very well how to bind someone hand and foot.
Yeah, because
willingly.
I train in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, I don't think that's what I was talking about.
Sorry.
Also, live streaming instructions. Like, what is this? A TikTok manual here? I don't really understand that. Like, make sure the lighting is on. And the last part, this is kind of chilling. If somebody is a problem, kill them. Yeah. Kill the problematic people.
Jeez.
This is part of what they do. This is part of their existence is taking hostages.
That's like when you get these people on the internet like this Jackson Hinkle doofus that keep saying this is all propaganda by the IDF. It's not. We're seeing the live footage that has been released by Hamas on their telegrams, on their TikTok, wherever they're putting it out.
Well, also remember this.
They're advertising.
Israel knew that the narrative would be taken over and that people would start to say that, in fact, babies weren't beheaded and burned and people weren't actually killed.
Right.
And so what happens is what they did was, remember, Hamas wore body cam.
I know. I saw that.
And the IDF actually showed the horrific footage, it was 45 minutes of it, to the press.
Yeah.
So that the press couldn't also, jump on this sort of moral equivalency bandwagon, which they've done, by the way.
They've still done it, and people on Twitter have done it. And look, we've I don't know why this is so hard for people to understand. Look at me for 1 second, just give me your attention. Anybody out there right now who is saying that I or anybody else on this team is pro-war just because we want Israel to be able to defend themselves is a moron. It doesn't mean that we want conflict. I'm just saying when conflict comes a-knocking, we're not backing down. That's a very, very different thing. Being able to protect yourself and your citizens is a right that Israel should have. When they take hostages, when they keep firing rockets, when they keep attacking from this place and go, no, I'm on home base. I'm touching the wall. I'm back in Gaza. Does that really matter? Are you serious with this? Like, it's Hamas that we're going after, not the people of Gaza.
Except
we told them where to go.
Are Hamas.
I know that's kind
of
almost one in the same, but it's the leadership in Hamas. They're not going after women and children specifically. In war, can bad things happen? 100%. Should people be held responsible if they do it intentionally? 100%. Does everybody understand that? Am I clear? Does Israel make mistakes? 100%. Yes, they make mistakes, just like everybody else, but they didn't start this fight. I don't care how far back you want to go. They didn't start this.
And why is it that the press never mentions the fact that the best thing to happen to the Palestinians might be getting rid of Hamas? It
absolutely would be.
Yeah, they're run by different militias. I mean, Hamas is like all these different factions, by the way. And the best thing you could probably do to Gaza is get rid of those people.
Yeah. Speaking of those people, a senior leader of Hamas Bassem Naim told NBC's Richard Engel Hamas's conditions for releasing the hostages.
So are you telling me right now that if the airstrikes stop, then all of the civilians, who I assume you mean are non-soldiers, all of the civilians, Israelis, foreigners,
that's what the word means, yes.
They come out immediately?
Yes, this is what he announced yesterday, and I think it is still valid.
And what about
you think,
the
have to hold my phone with two
Israeli
hands.
soldiers who were captured?
It's very heavy.
You've talked about freeing the civilians, Israelis and foreigners. What are you asking for the Israeli soldiers?
To release all our prisoners.
Everything that guy just says bullshit.
Just all 10,000 of them.
Yeah, exactly. Do you buy anything that guy just said? If you stop the bombing, we'll release the hostages. Oh, okay, here we go. How about novel idea? You release the hostages and we stop the bombing. How does that sound reasonable? We'll stop shelling you for a little while. You release the hostages, and then we'll take this to whatever level we need to take it to make sure you guys never do this again. But for now, let's just get the hostages.
Or get in a time machine and go back in time and don't take hostages.
Right, in the first place.
And kill a bunch of children. How's that sound?
What did you think was going to happen?
Hot Tub Time Machine.
Well, they don't have a lot of hot tubs
real.
over there, so it's... Yeah.
It's so interesting to me. Like, we're going to kill 1,400 of your citizens, mostly civilians, by the way.
Yeah. On purpose.
Entire families. In their pajamas.
In some of the most barbaric ways possible.
Great.
But hey, we're going to take
And
some
we're going to
hostages.
film it, and we're going to send it to their families. But you know what? We're sorry. Don't come in.
Yeah. Well, at least former Vice President Joe Biden said the hostages would need to be released before a ceasefire could even be discussed.
If the U.S. supporting the hostages for a ceasefire deal, why did you?
We should have a ceasefire. Not a ceasefire. We should have the hostages released. And then we can talk.
Any progress that were just.
Well, he tries to say the right thing, and sometimes he says it wrong and then says it right. But I think what he meant was that there's no ceasefire right now. But he is trying to delay the ground invasion from Israel. But I keep hearing about this like ceasefire thing to see if you can resolve a situation peacefully.
Hey, ceasefire, everyone calm down. Hey, ceasefire, calm down, guys.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to work.
No.
I love that John Wick, just to put the fear of God into him a little bit more, shot the other guy in the head first. When he could have killed him, he's like, no, you need to suffer a wee bit more. I kind of think that's what should happen to these barbaric animals that took the hostages in the first place.
I think that the big thing that's really being undervalued here that needs to be discussed, that needs to be handled, is the Qataris in the situation.
Yeah.
The US,
it will be.
Now, well, it's not being right now. The U.S. needs to go in there and be incredibly firm with them. They say, you turn over this leadership of Hamas, you get the Hamas leadership, Ismail Haniyeh, in your Four Seasons hotel in Doha to say, you release these prisoners right now, or these hostages, or you're going to be extradited to the United States.
But Lane, I think what's really going on is that the Iranians are being
but the problem here is
and I think the Israelis are. I think so. The Israelis used to make a distinction between Hamas's political wing and their military wing, and now they're not. So anybody who is part of Hamas's political wing or military wing, including those in Qatar, are on what's called a hit list. And I think
then let's start hitting that list.
Well, they have their timeline.
Well, except
they have their timeline.
The Qataris have been propping Hamas up for a year. In 2012, they gave them $400 million to Hamas directly.
Yep.
Really?
And in 2008,
that's more than we're giving to them directly.
All of the Gulf states were pressuring Qatar. The Saudis had a blockade on them up until 2020 that was basically choking them out and saying, you have to stop supporting terror or your economic lifeline is done. Trump flip-flopped on that. Biden flip-flopped on that. They wanted this Gulf unity because they were worried about Iran. We need to leverage our relationship with the Saudis against the Qataris. Say, you do what we say, or we're going to let the Saudis come in and do whatever they want to you, because the Saudis would take Qatar like that if they could. Only problem is, what I told George, we need to tell the Saudis, we're going to let you do this, but we're going to have Mickey Mouse selling churros under the clock tower in Mecca.
Nice.
I don't think they would allow that.
I don't want that.
Nobody
Churros
wants
are
to
bad
export
for your pancreas.
McDonald's.
The point is, we have
Ew.
a relationship to leverage with the Saudis.
We do.
Against the Qataris, and
I
we
get
have
it.
common interest.
I get it.
But yet Joe Biden comes in and calls them a pariah state.
Listen, use his title, former Vice President Joe Biden. I understand. I understand. Look, we can leverage our relationships a little bit better, but right now it seems like what we want to do is just give them more money, which I don't know why we would do any of that. But look, last week, if you're a part of Mug Club on our Friday show, you actually got a little bit of a brief discussion on this. Make sure you join Mug Club again. We love supporting you guys and talking to you guys. And actually, I don't know, doing chat when I say I'm going to do chat. There was a time where I said I was going to do chat. I ended the show and I was like, didn't do chat. 30 seconds later, we came back on, scared people half to death. One of my friends told me he was driving and was hearing kind of like, I guess, an outro or just whatever we put up. And all of a sudden it was my voice. And he was like swerving the car a little bit. And I was like, really sorry, guys. But we'll actually do a lot of that chat. But we got to this a little. We're going to go into it a little bit more here. So if you saw it, you're going to get a little new information. But if you didn't see it, this is all brand new to you. But the Biden administration is seeking to fund, I would say just Israel, but they're kind of looping in everything into this. Ukraine, Israel, domestic affairs, buildings they want to build, statues they want to put up, parades. I don't know. There's probably all kinds of things in there that they would like to do. But they have $105 billion. Used to be 100. Now it's $105 billion. What's $5 billion between friends, right? That's just a rounding error when we're talking about this much money. And they want it to be funded quickly, putting it before Congress.
The grand total here is $105 billion. That's the request from the Biden administration to Capitol Hill for new aid to Israel and to Ukraine.
How about no money?
Yeah. Zero money. Zero money is a really good place to start. But do me a favor, hit the like. Is there like a like button, the thumbs up? Give me a thumbs up. Give me a like. Give me something. If you want us to break down and explain more legislation like this so you can see what our government is doing. And I think, Lane, the reason that you're saying that is because we get these packages that are not clear.
Right.
On the surface, they title them in ways, they're very good at marketing, right? They title them in ways that look good. They throw out dollar amounts that just you become numb to seeing billion after a number now.
Well, I would get into this bill, and we can a little bit later. It's poor marketing on their part because this gives fodder to kind of the right on Twitter to say $105 billion. That's a lot of cash. They're spending your money. But if you break it down, it might actually make a little bit more sense where the money's going. I'm not saying it's a great bill.
No, I know. So here's why it's great marketing. It's a car alarm now. $105 billion. You hear it. It's kind of annoying for a second, but you don't do anything. Like you just keep walking into the store.
Yeah, that's true.
So
something about aid that people forget, though, when you hear $105 billion, you think of a blank check that's given to these countries. It's actually not how it works.
It's not like in Happy Gilmore where it's like a big check that they just take home today.
I call a hole in one.
So remember, when they say $105 billion to Ukraine and to Israel, what it actually means is that they're sending weapons, food, and other supplies. But those weapons, food, and other supplies are made here in the United States. So that money actually goes to American companies that make the products and then send them.
Are you talking about the lobbyists?
It's kind of a secret way that both Republicans and Democrats keep their constituents in their areas happy, because what they do is it's kind of
and they do give them some money
as
well.
Yes, they do, but actually most of it goes to American companies who make the goods, the weaponry and everything else, and then send it. So it's kind of a tricky thing.
It is. But they're trying to sneak in a lot of stuff into this package because nobody cares about Ukraine right now. Have you guys realized how many stories they've done on CNN about Ukraine lately? I think maybe zero is a really close estimate. It's almost zero. How about that? That's the probability that you're going to see a story about Ukraine right now. And Zelensky is pissed. He's like, end the war in Israel, please.
Well, whatever happened to Maui?
I know Maui doesn't exist anymore. Well, we've moved on. These tragedies that take people's lives and decimate entire communities.
Rich people buy the property.
Yeah, it's like whatever. We're totally good. All right, so look here's the funding bill. It's Ukraine is getting $61.4 billion. $44 billion of this is to replenish the stockpiles for the United States, our weapons. I don't understand how that counts as aid towards them, because we're basically going, $44 billion of this 61.4 going to go into our stockpiles. Can't you just say we're spending $44 billion on replenishing our stockpile? I think it's a good idea to make sure that we do that. We actually covered a lot of the things that would be needed in a war if another broad war breaks out in the Middle East. Who could possibly see that coming? like what we would need, and it would cost us a lot of money and time to do it. So maybe now's the time to be doing it. I don't know, maybe 2 years ago was the time to be doing it. But anyway, I digress. Israel, $14.3 billion, $10.6 billion of this is to the Pentagon for air missile defense support, kind of what you were saying here. We get some money going to some of those defense contractors. Yep. And then replenishing stockpiles again for $500.
There's a reason Lindsey Graham pushes for these.
Oh, I know.
Correct.
Well, hold on. What reason could that be?
It could be Boeing. It could be Lockheed. It could be Raytheon. It could be all those that are in.
Yes, they're very happy with this aid package. Yes.
Lindsey Graham's getting a lot of votes.
Yes, they're very happy. There are a lot of companies that go, yes, aid.
Oh, I know.
It comes right to them.
That's a different aid.
No, just aid plural.
Yeah.
AIDS.
Well, but it's not. You can't just pluralize it.
He gave 60 billion AIDS.
Here's a trivia question for everybody.
What is he, Fauci?
Whoa.
I'm sorry, he didn't give AIDS. He just let people die from it. My bad.
Yeah. You want to hear? Here's a trivia question. What percentage of the U.S. government's budget
13
goes to foreign aid? That's a weird question.
10.
Okay.
6.
1%.
1.
A little over 1%. Hey, man, you can't.
I don't know. It's
that.
a dumb question, so I was giving you dumb answers. It's not a dumb question, but I don't think a lot of people know that. But our budget is pretty
read
high.
that, so then I like to pretend that I knew it, but it's just like I read.
Yeah.
Now
Fantastic.
I'm quizzing you guys so I can feel smarter.
Hey, Brian, how much money is going to border agents? Nope, you're wrong. It's $14 billion. I know you weren't going to say $14 billion. $14 billion. That's almost an entire wall. One would say that maybe building the wall would be a better place to start than flooding the border with more agents.
Yeah, walls don't call in sick.
That's valid.
Maybe you would need fewer agents if you had a wall. I don't know. I'm just saying we're going to start pricing things in terms of border walls that could have bought us. Okay, so 105 billion is roughly 5 border walls plus some leftover money to make sure there's enough people to man it with the turrets and the guns, right? That kind of thing. All right, there we go. Now we understand what our money's being used for.
I like that.
All right, 9.5 billion or half a border wall in humanitarian aid is to be split between Israel, Ukraine, and Gaza. Now here's the fun part. I love it when people make rules like this because it means they can do whatever they want with it. The White House said this funding is flexible and will go to where it is needed the most, which means wherever they choose. Now, by the way, anytime you want to say that this money is going to Gaza, please understand, Hamas is the government in Gaza. So any aid sent to Gaza will be going to them. Now, could there be some NGOs or other groups that they try to bring in? Or yeah, I understand that. That's possible. But any money that goes there is suspect in my book because it is going to the people that are running the war with Israel. I'm sorry. I mean the terrorists and the attacks that they are perpetrating on those people. But there's also some other stuff that is happening. Money is going to the Indo-Pacific. What would that mean, Lane? What is Indo-Pacific?
Well,
is that Southern Pacific?
This would be my biggest problem with this entire budget breakdown. I mean, look at what we spend on entitlements before you want to talk to me about military spending. I can't take an argument about military spending seriously until you want to do entitlement reform. But
that's fair.
As long as we're giving money away, why we're allocating money to certain places? Why not allocate most of this to the Indo-Pacific? That is still our biggest problem. What we see in Israel is tragic. What's happening to Ukrainians sucks. I hate it. That is not our existential threat.
Okay.
We have one, and we're still pussyfooting around about it.
China.
And this is China. And this is an excellent indication of how unseriously we're taking this problem.
Absolutely. Well, it's people are focused on something that they shouldn't be focused on right now. Shocker. It sucks. But people take foreign policy and geopolitics so I guess they don't treat it with the seriousness that it deserves, and you end up in bad situations. Look, the isolationist ideas that people are propagating right now have been tried before to very bad effect.
Somebody
I'm not saying
fills
that
the vacuum, right?
every single time. Like, it doesn't mean that we have to be involved in every single war. I understand that. Like, people are tired of trying that because it doesn't work
Democracy
long-term.
building and nation building doesn't work.
But wouldn't you say
right?
the Ukraine effort is sort of a shot across the bow for China?
No, I don't think so. I think what Lane and I have talked about over the, I guess, almost 2 years now or a year and a half, I can't remember exactly how long the war has been going on in Ukraine. It would have been initially. Like, we had a moment at the very beginning of this to go in there and say, hey, knock this off and put everybody back in their neutral corners to some degree, right? In some way, but now that we've just let it drag on, it has become very apparent to the world that we don't take this very seriously, right? We should have just said, hey, we're not in this. We're not funding this. Europe, these guys are a part of your little conglomeration over here. You guys take care of this. This is y'all's problem. It's time for you to step up. You've had enough training wheels. Take care of your own neighborhood. It's not our job to come in and clean up every single mess that exists over here.
There were two choices, and you can argue whichever one you should have made. It's you do nothing, let the Europeans handle it. We focus all of our resources where they're most important to our strategic interests, or we go in and absolutely end it as soon as possible.
Period.
That's it.
But now we've
kind
been
of sat in the middle. We've depleted our stockpile.
We've made Lindsey Graham's
capital.
people happy.
Yeah.
That's what that's exactly what's been going on in Ukraine. They're like, we're depleting the Russian military force for a fraction of our budget. I'm like, do you think China cares about the Russian military force? By the way, the Russian military force doesn't necessarily look like the biggest, thing to be afraid of in the world right now. They're having a hard time taking over Ukraine. Anyway, let me just move on for a second here because there's a big problem that this White House is trying to leverage right now. And look, Matt Gaetz, I don't know if you just like to watch the world burn or if you had a plan and the plan just fell apart. Look, I can understand that happens. But right now, we don't have a speaker, which means no laws are being passed. The Biden administration, no, this is not good. Here's why. Right now, we should be talking about former Vice President Joe Biden's economy sucking and his handling of a war and what the news media is doing. And they'll find something every single time to spin. But this is a gift. No speaker, can't pass any laws, can't put anything into effect. We can't aid Israel. Oh, sorry, support Israel. We kind of can't yet because nothing can get going in the House. And the Biden administration is lumping everything together to gain broad bipartisan support. And everything is deadlocked. My question to you, how do you think the deadlock in Congress will affect these wars? I understand maybe it's a good thing to hold up some funding. Right? And we don't want to spend money in places that we shouldn't be spending money. Maybe that's Ukraine. But my problem with that is the optics of it are incredibly bad. And I do think we should be sending some money to some places.
Yes.
I just don't think we should be sending money to all of the places that they're listed. Right? So we need to do something, and we can't right now.
And Gerald,
bad time for the Republicans in Congress.
Yeah. Gerald, Matt Gaetz didn't have a plan. I don't think so. I think he's running for governor of Florida, and he's all about Matt Gaetz.
Is he?
I mean, I don't know. I think he's more into destruction. I don't think there was a plan there.
Some people just want to watch the world burn, Brian.
Get rid of McCarthy, and then we'll just make a bunch of noise, and I want all the attention.
I don't know what happens after that, but look, I understand it frustrates a lot of people, but there's some practical issues that it's bringing up. But one of the other things that we need to make sure is focused on is the border. We've talked about border walls. Again, 5 border walls in the new funding package. I'm just going to start pricing everything on border walls. It's like using crypto. It's like 0.08 of Bitcoin, right? According to a memo by the U.S. Customs and Border Patrol, the CPB from here on out, border officials arrested 18 people. This is just the arrests. 18 people on the FBI's terror watch list in September alone.
Damn.
Suspected terrorists could use the southern border to gain entry into the United States.
Really?
That
Who
concern
knew?
has escalated in recent days as the Israel-Hamas war rages on.
Could have never seen this coming. I was talking with Lane before the show about this, and I said one of my favorite authors, Joel C. Rosenberg, has a new book out. I think he's going to kill me. It's Libya Invasion or the Libya. I can't remember the name of it. Somebody look it up. Joel C. Rosenberg Libya book. Anyway, the whole like plot of this book is a terrorist coming into the United States through the southern border, and it's not like I'm saying he's calling it. I'm just saying that's part of it. And he's like, wait a minute, the entire new series of Jack Ryan on Amazon was about that. And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, and by the way, there was also like a Tom Clancy book that was about that. And it's not that Joel's book is in any way like copying that. The idea of the southern border being used by terrorists is so obvious to everyone except apparently the government that they're using it as the plot of their stories.
Why do we keep giving them ideas?
I don't know, but it's a really, really bad thing. And everybody is on board with this. Like, yeah, that's absolutely. That's not going to lose the audience. They're going to be able to follow that. They can see these numbers, except for the White House. And by the way, the terrorist watch list that I was talking about, the CPB terror watch list encounters at the border in the past 12 months, 169 terrorists have been arrested. Oh. That's more than the last 6 years combined. Under Donald Trump, the grand total, 11.
Wow.
11.
Those are almost different numbers.
Trump was in the White House for how many years as president of the United States?
Yeah.
Total so far under Joe Biden, 282.
Wow.
This is scaring the hell out of me because normally what you do, it's like a multiple, right?
Yeah.
You say like, okay, we catch 1 in 5 terrorists. Maybe I'm really hoping the number is like higher than that and it's 4 out of 5, but let's just use it. So we catch 1 in 5 terrorists, so multiply the number by 5.
Right.
And that's how many are trying to get in. You know, 1 of those 5 doesn't get in, but 4 do. That's really bad, right? Now, if you do that under Joe Biden, they've got basically the population of a state. Like there's so many people coming in the border right now that you've got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people on terror watch lists that have made it through successfully into the United States. I understand it may be not that high of a number, but really, how many does it take?
Yeah.
Right. But here's the good news. Right. Luckily, every once in a while they get sloppy, and we actually do catch one. It's never much of a Mr. Bean fan anyway. I'm glad he's going to do life.
Yeah.
So let's just say real quick that these are not terrorists, and we have other unfettered illegal immigration coming in from these Middle Eastern countries, as you've seen in places like Dallas or New York, and you see hundreds of thousands of pro-Palestinian marchers, and ostensibly they're marching for what? Free Palestine.
Right.
That's a terrorist slogan. I'm sorry, it is now.
Yeah.
Guess what? This poll, a majority of Muslim Americans say Hamas's attacks on Israel were justified.
On October 7th?
Yes.
I think we should be careful about polls.
Okay.
Well, but the fact that the majority of these people polled said that is a pretty big deal.
I've spoken
but I think there are a lot of Israelis. See, I don't think, my feeling is that if we start getting into Muslim and we start getting into the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, I believe that that's a whole different subject, right? So you could say all those things, and we can go on for days, hours, years. My feeling is that October 7th should stand as its own atrocity, where you cannot justify that kind of behavior.
Well, that's what he's saying. The poll said they were justifying that specific behavior.
I understand. I understand what you're saying, Lane. I'm just saying that I think it's really important, though, to kind of like focus on making sure we don't make moral equivalencies. And what's going on in the mainstream media is they're saying, you're bombing Gaza and killing children. That is true. And that's the same as coming over on a holiday, morning and killing a bunch of children and everybody else and taking hostages.
And that is not true.
It is not. And it's really
and
important
he's not
to
saying
keep.
that.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, Lane, I think it's really important that we keep that distinction and then keep the other discussion almost separate, right? It's almost like the Israeli-Palestinian thing, yes, we can have that conversation.
Right, but so let me just be clear. You just quoted
does that make sense,
a poll that was really focused on October 7th, so he is...
Got it.
He is keeping that separate.
On the polling company, private polling company, and yes, you have to take polls. Let's say there's a 30% margin of error. That's still 1 out of 5.
Yeah. Who think October 7th was fine.
And the reason I don't have a hard time believing this, unfortunately, is because I was at one of these places, and not one person would condemn what happened.
Yeah.
Wow,
to my face.
that's
not
crazy.
One.
Is that, can I just, to play devil's advocate, only because I just want to, I think it's important that we're
play
fair.
Allah's advocate.
Is it possible that right now, because emotions are so high, people are, I don't know. Yeah, man. See, I agree with you guys. I agree with you guys.
No,
Look,
I know.
You're talking about
I know what you're trying to do, and it's a valiant effort, but no, they are terrorists.
I lived in the Middle East for 8 years of my life.
Yeah.
And I have to say, again, I think to your point, guys, it's like you have to condemn that. You cannot not condemn that.
Right.
You cannot say it's justified. Oh, I cut her head off, but my mom was mean to me.
No, there is no justification for this. And look, it's one of those things that you can get lost in the weeds a little bit here. That's why I said a minute ago, I don't care how far back you want to go.
Right.
You guys want to go all the way back to before Israel was fine, fantastic. Let's do that. You want to go through all the atrocities that have happened since then? Fine, fantastic. Let's do that.
Yep.
There's one country right now where Muslims, Christians, and Jews live relatively peacefully in the Middle East, and that's Israel. Nobody else has gotten it right. Nobody else has gotten it right in that region, period. Tomorrow, if Hamas wanted peace, they could negotiate a peace with Israel if they truly meant it. Israel would be ready to do that. But Hamas will never do that because in their charter, it is the extinction of the Jews, period. When you put that as your founding document, you're kind of staking your claim. From the river to the sea means we're going to kill all of you. Just be clear on what we're talking about here. Israel doesn't have a constitution or a founding document that says kill all Muslims and push them into the sea. That doesn't exist.
That's what I mean when I say it's a terrorist slogan. I don't mean that the children in the halls of San Francisco high schools yelling.
They don't know.
They don't know. And people saying free Palestine. What
they're listening to AOC and Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar, those moronic, crazy people who are trying to make this about an oppressed class. That's not what's happening right now. Tell you what, Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, anybody who wants to be a part of the squad or squad adjacent, you tell me how an organization can call for the extermination of a people and have peace with those people. And I don't think it's possible because it's not possible.
The last thing I want to say before anything gets misconstrued here on this show as being Islamophobic, that's not the case. No. And it's America, and anyone should have the right to practice the religion they want to.
100%.
And there should never be any violence directed at any ethnicity or religious group at all, period.
No, just because people are Muslim in countries doing things that you don't like, it would be very stupid to just see a Muslim here and go, bad person. Same thing with MAGA, right? Where we're talking about, hey, we got a MAGA person over here and the guy gets shot. Yeah. That's stupid too. Like you can disagree with Joe Biden, you can disagree with Donald Trump and not hate everybody that's associated with them, though it's harder on the Joe Biden side because a lot of those people are really, really terrible. I just wouldn't say hate them. But
have to be a reconciliation with what we do with this sort of vitriol that's rising between groups.
Well, let me ask a question really quickly. So, and this is you're a man who can handle himself in a fight, right? You're very well trained.
I'll keep you busy
by Mossad.
I'll keep you busy.
Shoulders. Look at those shoulders.
Listen, okay, so look,
I
don't know if you guys have actually done this, and this is something that I don't want you. Look, I was going to say, don't do that. I want you to comment on this. And I really when I say that, this is not like, hey, let's drive interaction and see what happens. I want to know what you think. I want to know what you are thinking right now because this is like this giant sample size that we have of people that are going to watch this show, over 1 million people. I want to know what you guys think about what I'm about to say. When I go out to my car in the morning, I'm more cautious. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm like, I'm scared or anything like that, but I'm like, okay, things are a little crazy. I don't necessarily know that it's coming to where I live or to where anybody here lives. But I'm just a little bit more cautious. I'm a little bit more cautious when I go to big crowds, big gatherings. Just a little bit. Just to make sure that I have some situational awareness. I'm not so distracted that I can't live my life. I'm not living in fear or anything like that. But are you taking extra precautions right now? Like, are you a little bit more aware of your surroundings? Are you a little bit more on edge because of some of this stuff? Not because of your neighbor who happens to be Muslim. I have plenty of people that I know in my neighborhood that are Muslims. No problems whatsoever. I'm not worried about them because of their faith. I'm not saying, well, these guys are Muslim, and so therefore they're probably terrorists, But it does make me a little bit more concerned in other situations, and I think there's a lot of people like that right now. Makes me more concerned when I go to church.
Yeah.
Right? Because churches can be a target. Mm-hmm. And if people can justify, to your point, Lane, October 7th, they can justify anything to reach that end. So,
and I think, I'm sorry, but the people that commit a lot of this violence have earned that reputation.
Well,
right?
Yeah.
And sometimes you got to draw, it's like I remember in 2002 when the suicide bombing started going off and Israelis were just getting blown to bits. Mm-hmm. Now, and I think Dianne Feinstein or somebody said, what is Ariel Sharon supposed to do? Write a letter to the editor? Like, what would you do? And if violence, again, like I don't believe in building settlements on Palestinian land. You can have that point of view. You can say, I think that the far right religious fundamentalists in Israel might be building land on what they blah, blah, but you can get into this. That's fine. You want to get into this conversation. But at the end of the day, if you're going to blow yourself up and you're going to kill a bunch of civilians, and if you think that's going to get you anywhere, Israel has a duty to its citizens and to the moral code to say, no way.
What if it was happening here?
We would go.
That's what I'm saying.
Ballistic, dude.
Think about it. Think about it right now. What if this happened in your neighborhood?
What if they killed?
What would you do?
What if they killed your kids, or they took your grandmother hostage? What would you?
Well, grandma. No, I'm just kidding.
That's true, by the way.
No, yeah, I love grandma.
She needs her medication.
Yeah. Both of my grandmas are dead, so you can't take them.
Oh, great.
They do vote, though.
Great. Now I'm depressed.
So, by the way,
vote.
I just want you to know, like, the Biden administration, they know about all of this, right? And the DHS is kind of referring back to the numbers of the terrorists coming over and the apprehensions and the craziness that's going on at the border. They know about all of this. And the DHS's 2024 Homeland Threat Assessment, it probably states white supremacy is the problem. No, they actually do know that this is a problem as well. They just typically focus on white supremacists. And this is a quote from individuals with terrorism connections are interested in using established travel routes and permissive environments to facilitate access to the United States. Here, let me rewrite that for you. Can we pull that back up? Let me rewrite that. I'm just going to take a pen to this. Individuals who are terrorists, not with terrorism connections, I think they can rewrite that a little bit better, are interested in using known travel routes where nobody gives an F, and they can just walk right in. I'm talking about the southern border where we don't have a wall.
Narrated by Gerald Morgan Jr.
I think that's better to the point. Does everybody understand? Like, that's what they're talking about? And in fact, a leaked internal CBP memo, you down with OPP? Dated October 20th, 2023 warns this: San Diego Field Office Intelligence Unit assesses that individuals inspired by or reacting to the current Israel-Hamas conflict may attempt to travel to or from the area of hostilities in the Middle East across the southwest border. So, wall? 20 billion? Can we go back to that? 5 walls that we're about to send. 5.25 walls are being sent over in aid right now. I just think we could take one of those walls out of it and send 4.25 walls and keep one for ourselves.
Is it weird that it's easier for terrorists to get across our southwest border than it is for Palestinians to get across their southwest border into Egypt?
Into a friendly country that says that they are in the world's largest outdoor open-air prison? I mean, if they are, you got some gates to the prison. We're not locking it.
Do you guys think we're going to see? Do you guys think we're going to see more Palestinians eventually start saying, "Thank God Hamas is no longer here"? Like, I feel like that's around the corner.
I think it's possible. It just depends. Like, they're very good at propaganda. The whole hospital thing that we completely debunked, and still to this day, people are running with it like it actually happened. What was it? The Wall Street Journal had photos up of like another bombed out building because they couldn't find photos of the hospital to make it look like that was the hospital that had been bombed, which it hadn't.
If you want the worst picture I think I've seen yet from the protests from the war, you can
go
ahead.
That
up, Matt.
Reproductive justice means free power.
Oh my God! Talk about hijacking! Talk about hijacking a situation.
If you cannot abort a baby, no peace.
Wow, what a-holes! Just a group of a-holes.
I don't understand you. It's like, are you trying to piggyback every set of victimized status on the planet onto the Israel-Hamas?
Where's the climate?
Yeah, where's the climate?
I love, there's a Greta Thunberg one on X where somebody dubbed over and made it look pretty close to what she was saying. Like, please use biodegradable bombs if you can, because really the bombs are the problem. And I'm like, what?
A lot of people
actually
shared
pretty
that
funny.
like it was real, though.
I know, they're idiots.
Well,
they're really, really stupid.
Welcome to the world.
Listen, I hope it's not you. But the law of big numbers says maybe it is. Watching this show, there might be one, but most of you are very smart, and we pride ourselves in knowing that our audience is not full of idiots. We really do. We know that you are not stupid, and that's why we're giving you some of this information. You just have other stuff in your life to do. But if there is one idiot out there, that's not real. She's not saying that. There's so many things like that are fake on X that people run with. And I could spend most of my day just going, that's not real. That's not real, and just retweeting something with a quote or reposting.
Yeah.
And I have no time. I think if you're dumb enough to just fall for this hook, line, and sinker, there's nothing I can do for you.
But
How dare you?
I dare. And look, let me just move on really quickly because we're running a little bit late here. Specifically, the memo does list individuals associated with Hamas, Hezbollah, the Palestinian Islamic Jihad. You remember those guys? The Popular Front for Liberation of Palestine. And didn't the Islamic Jihad guys? They're the ones that fired that rocket that didn't make it to its intended target and instead ended up in the parking lot of a hospital, burning cars, knocking out a handful of windows, and not killing 500 people, not wounding 600 on top of that. I don't think we've seen retractions, though. Yeah,
they have
I'll
cheap
hold my
rockets.
breath.
They have cheap rockets.
Well, they make them out of the water pipes that the Israelis and the rest of the world gave them so that they could have their own water, and instead they'd rather be a victim class and shoot rockets at Israel. But hey, peace, let's go for a ceasefire. You first. Not surprising, considering illegal crossings at the southern border have boomed under Biden. September alone saw 269,735 illegal crossings under Joe R. Biden, former vice president. Just so you know, his average is about 179,000 per month. On Donald Trump's watch, it was around 40,000 per month. And look,
that's lower, right?
Hey, at least cocaine's cheaper, right, guys?
Yeah, exactly right. So, unfortunately, the authorities also accidentally released a terrorist must-watch list, I should say, right? And it is quite reckless, and it includes films like United 93, Air Force One, Kate and Leopold, and that last one there is just rather
that
brutal.
last one.
That's rough.
That is pretty brutal.
Yeah.
Better
By the
than
way,
Shakespeare in Love.
It's not actually.
Well, it could be.
No,
That's
it's
your
not.
opinion.
Listen, I want you to remember those are the ones that are actually caught. I made that case earlier. If you missed it, if you came in late to class, look at somebody else's notes because I talked to you about that. If you're only catching that many, how many are getting past you? I don't think you really know, but usually it's a bit of a multiple, and it's not good. And look, don't expect former Vice President Joseph Robinette Biden to do anything about the border. After all, he thinks that disenfranchising U.S. citizens with a nonstop, unrelenting stream of immigration is one heck of a plan.
An unrelenting stream of immigration. Nonstop. Folks like me
called
who
cultural
are
enrichment.
Caucasian of European descent, for the first time in 2017, will be in an absolute minority in the United States of America. Absolute minority. Fewer than 50% of the people in America from then and on will be white European stock. That's not a bad thing.
But don't forget.
It's also wrong.
Don't forget. He doesn't want the immigrants to ever really be in a place of power.
We already have a nigger mayor. We don't need any more nigger big shots.
Wow, stuck the R, Joe. I wouldn't keep doing that. Well, that's right. You said it, and it's on tape, and you can't really undo that. But you're 100% right. He's wrong, and that's not fantastic. That you shouldn't having a white minority shouldn't be a thing that you're. I don't think it accomplishes anything in and of itself. Why is that a goal? Doesn't matter. Like it's not solving. Oh, you think that white people are the problem. And in that case, then yeah, having a minority of white people and having that makes a lot of sense to you. You think that white people are the extremists and the terrorists. Okay, I totally understand that. Yeah, because most terrorist attacks in the world, at least in the last 50 years, have been committed by white guys. But that's just me. Maybe I missed it. I don't know. I'm not saying that white guys are great. I'm saying that sometimes maybe not calling them domestic terrorists just because they think that freedom is a good thing would be a place to start, Joe.
Don't go to PTA meetings and arrest parents protesting.
That's fair because if you do take an interest in your child's education and the indoctrination that the government is subjecting them to, that you're probably a radical and you need to be dealt with, and we need to get on that.
To be fair, though. We did just recently get all the Asians as whites also because they got really good at math and making money, so they've kind of been... According to a bunch of school districts on the West Coast, Asians are now white. So,
they are?
The population is increasing. Yeah.
Oh.
There's a district in Oregon that said, well, you're going to be counted as white now, basically because they were scoring too high.
Well, let me be the first to say, welcome.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're now not protected in any way. It's going to suck.
How's Stop Asian
Part of the problem.
Yeah.
They're part of the problem.
What happened to that, Tim? Where'd that movement go?
Yeah, Stop Asian Hate went away. But look, do you think the next terror attack, do you guys, a lot of you who watch this show because of our demographics were either really young, maybe not born, or maybe around 10 years old when a lot of this was going on. But the reason that I started doing this with Steven back in 2015, 16 radio days was because of terrorism. I helped teach a class called A Christian's Response to Islam. By the way, it's not blowing them up. It's loving them and understanding where people are coming from in Islam. It's not talking about terrorists necessarily, because that's going to be kind of a fruitless situation to try to deal with. But it's not talking about, like he said, we're not denigrating an entire people just because they're Muslim. Like I taught this class. It was because of the terrorist attacks. Like I studied their eschatology. I studied their end times theology to understand what was driving them. I studied how salvation can be found, and it's only guaranteed through jihad. Right? And so you start to understand what motivates people. And so we started seeing terrorist attack after September 11th, tons of terrorist attacks around the world. And I came on to talk about that. And then it went away for a little while, and then they started focusing on white people, right? So the demand for terrorism outstripped supply. So they're like, all right, we're going to focus on domestic terrorists and start kind of getting in it. And Dinesh D'Souza gets into that in his movie, The Police State, which is out. It was out yesterday in theaters, and it's also out tomorrow.
It's a really good doc.
Yeah,
I watched it.
absolutely
and an
fantastic.
Important doc, actually.
Yeah, we aired the interview that I did with him yesterday. But my problem and my question to you is, do you think that next terrorist attack that we haven't had to worry about on U.S. soil for a long time is coming back to U.S. soil? Do you think that somebody who crossed over the southern border under former Vice President Joe Biden's open border policy is going to commit an act of terror that now we have to worry about on American soil? Or do you think white guys that like to drink beer every once in a while are really the problem that we need to clean up? All right. Look, I'm going to do a really quick kind of setup into this, and then we're going to go into MugClub, and I'm going to give you more information. But I've been looking back based on some of the cases that we've seen with Trevor Bauer and the punter. What's his name?
Matt Araiza.
Araiza. I always want to say Azera, and it's not right. I know he's the punt god.
Yes,
was
he
his
is.
nickname, and you don't become a punt god unless you're very good at punting, because most people don't care about punters. They come out, they do their job, and they collect $1 million paycheck, and that's great and all. But nobody really cares about them. Nobody wears their jerseys around except for maybe their family. But this guy was accused of sexual assault and found to be innocent.
He wasn't there.
He wasn't. Yeah,
I mean,
there was no there when she claimed
actually-
it happened.
Literally wasn't at the party.
Yeah, wasn't at the party.
Yes, she said
Trevor
he raped
Bauer
me and raped me and everybody got on this kid. He wasn't
did.
at the party, and the police figured that out right quick.
Yep, the DA.
And the mistake he made, in my opinion, your lawyers tell you to keep your mouth shut.
No.
Don't keep your mouth shut.
Never again. That's a bad strategy.
Shout from the top of the mountain.
Yep, exactly. We talked about Trevor Bauer, and we talked about the legal shenanigans from certain a-holes out in California that knew about this being completely false and
Scumbags.
still put it out there that he did this and cost this guy potentially his career in baseball. He's trying to come back into the United States, I think, right now, maybe meeting with some teams. We'll see. I hope that goes well for him.
Teams don't want to deal with it.
The problem is you're ruining people's lives on lies.
Mm-hmm.
Now, stopping sexual assault is good. This is almost the inverse of the Hitler bad thing, right? Stopping sexual assault, good, right? That's fantastic. How about this? Rape, bad. Sexual assault, bad. Absolutely. Should we stop more of it? Absolutely. Me Too went too far. We became the Salem witch trials, guys. Do you understand that? Look back on some of these cases. Look back on the people's lives that are ruined, and still they are being ruined, even though they're cleared. Even though evidence comes out to completely exonerate them, they are still having their lives ruined. Really quickly, last week, a federal judge found ex-Baylor football coach Art Briles to be not negligent surrounding allegations from a 2014 sexual assault case.
The Baylor Title IX lawsuit trial continued today at the federal courthouse in Waco. Today, the judge dismissed former Baylor football coach Art Briles and former athletic director Ian McCaw from the lawsuit, ruling no reasonable jury could find them negligent for the 2014 domestic violence assaults of a former Baylor student by a former football player.
Do you think ESPN cares? They're going to cover it for 5 seconds. You know what they covered at length?
The WNBA.
I hate that, by the way. ESPN, stop. We still don't care. Yeah. I don't care if the Aces have won 4 championships or whatever the heck the number is. Nobody cares. Do you know what they covered? They covered when Oklahoma played, I can't remember, Kansas State. I remember the game that they played. But Art Briles, because his son-in-law is a coach there, came down on the field with the rest of the family. With the rest of the family. Not specifically him. After the game. And stood with some of the players and was singing the fight song, being there with his family. And people got upset about that. Venables had to make a statement about that after the game, saying, we've talked about this and that was it shouldn't have happened. Right? I don't understand what's going on here when you cover that. Like, that is bad. You remember this guy? He's the guy, the sexual assault stuff that he allowed to go on, and he knew everything. That's exactly the kind of thing that they are saying. And this has followed this man his entire life. A brilliant guy who did, according to these reports and according to other reports that we're going to dive into a little bit more. We'll give you a bit of a teaser today, and I'm going to go into MugClub and talk about it a little more. But you need to understand we have been ruining people's lives on lies and speculation for years, and it has to stop. It does not serve your goals if you're trying to stop rape and sexual assault. It only makes people not believe any of the accusations anymore, even if they're true. You have to stop this. We cannot have another Brett Kavanaugh situation ever again. We cannot have another Art Briles. Mel Tucker going on right now. Trevor Bauer just find out about the finally releasing the information to us and letting us know that it wasn't true. We have to stop this. We're going to do a deeper dive. We might even do a super video on it because there's that many cases going on where people's lives are continuing to be ruined, and it has to stop right now. I'm sorry. I know this is a third rail. I don't care. People's lives are being ruined. You have to talk about it. It's important. We're going to talk a little bit more in Mug Club, but thank you guys for joining us. We really do appreciate it. Make sure if you are not a member of Mug Club that you sign up for Mug Club today. Bryan, where are you going to be Friday and Saturday in Chicago, but not Chicago?
Improv, Schaumburg Improv, Chicago Improv. In
Chicago Improv.
October 27th, October 28th.
27th and 28th. Make sure you go out and support him and do him a favor and play his favorite song when you see him, the I'm Too Sexy.
There you go.
And make sure you talk about his shoulders. YouTube.
They go on for days.
You know what? I'd love to be able to talk about this on your platform, but you guys are pansy, so piss off.